Hello, my name is Nora Schneider, and I am the Library Genealogy Associate at the Thomas Balch Library. Today, I would like to share some helpful tips on submitting research inquiries and creating research questions when contacting different repositories while conducting historical and genealogical research. There are a number of different types of repositories and organizations that you may be interacting with during your historical and genealogical research. But first, what do we mean when we talk about repositories and organizations? Repositories are locations that are housing resources and collections of materials that will be part of your research. Organizations such as historical and genealogical societies may be able to assist you with your research, but they may not actually have a physical collection of materials. Now, some organizations do, they do have a library associated with them, so they are also a repository, but not all organizations have repositories associated with them. There are different types of repositories and organizations. There's special collections libraries, there's public libraries, there are academic libraries. Thomas Balch Library is a special collections library. You have public libraries such as the county libraries or town libraries. Academic libraries are those associated with schools and universities. You have the courthouses, so county courthouses, town courthouses may be where you would need to go for historical records. You have different types of archives, so you will have the state level archives, town level government archives, and then you may have nonprofit archives that aren't associated with government. You may have organizational archives, as I said. There are a lot of different varieties of archives that you may be interacting with. Museums are repositories as well. They will have documentational archives. They will have collection archives, with those artifacts. And then you have the historical and genealogical societies. So as I said before, they will be organizations that you can contact to assist with your research, but they also may have repositories associated with them as well. So there are a lot of different repositories and organizations that you'll be coming into contact with during your research. And it's important to know how to frame your research inquiries and your research questions to best get that information that you're looking for while conducting your research. The first place that you're going to want to go when thinking about interacting with a repository or an organization is their website. Some repositories will have a research inquiry form on their website. And if they do, it's always best to fill out that form and fill out every section, because the repositories and the organizations have thought through what questions they want to ask you to best be able to assist you. In addition, they may have guidelines for how to submit an inquiry along with that inquiry form, or if they don't have a form, they may have guidelines when submitting an email. And those guidelines will have what to include in your inquiry, what not to include. So this is a portion of the research inquiry form that you will find on the Thomas Balch Library website. You'll see that we ask for what type of inquiry you're submitting. So is it local history? Is it genealogy? There are a couple of different choices. Then we ask what your question is. And we'll talk about framing a research question next. And then we ask, where have you already looked for this information? And that's very important for us to know, because we do not want to give you information from a location or a resource that you already have. And so it's helpful if you're specific. If you say, oh, I've looked online, or if I've looked in a couple of books, that isn't very helpful for us. But if you say, I've checked Ancestry already, I've checked Fold 3, I have these very specific family genealogies that have been published already, I've looked in those. If you have specific resources that you want us to look at, that's very helpful as well. And so you want to, again, look and see if there are guidelines, look and see if there's a form, and if there's a section on that form, please try and fill it out if you're able to. Now, when you're filling out these research inquiry forms, if you're able to provide a very specific research question that you would like answered, that is incredibly helpful to the staff at the repository so that we can best help you in your research. Saying, I would like to know all of the information that you have on the Smith family. We're going to contact you back and say, is there a specific member of the Smith family that you're looking for? Do you have dates? Do you have a location? Because that's a very large search for us. If there's something very specific you're looking for example, who are the parents of John Edwards, born in Loudoun County in 1860? That gives us a specific name, a specific place, and a specific year. But you may not have that information, and we understand that. So if you don't have specific information, do you have a rough date range, right? I know that this person was potentially in the county during this time period, and that narrows it down for us. Or, you know, if you can narrow it down in any specific way, right? If you know that there are certain branches of a family that aren't yours, being able to tell us, I know this is not the branch of this family that I want, that's helpful. And by including what you already know, you know, we talked about including where you've already looked. If you include what you already know, that's helpful. Names, maiden names for females, it's sometimes very hard to find those, but if you happen to know them, or you happen to know what they aren't, right? Including what you already know is not correct for what you're looking for, dates, locations. It's also very helpful for us if you provide the race of the family that you're researching. This is important not only for the methodology of the research, but also there are different resources available depending on the race of the family that we can look at and help you get answers to your questions. So providing specific research questions if you can. If you're not able to provide that information, getting as specific as possible and including what you already know or what you know may not be correct is incredibly helpful. This allows us to really narrow in on where we should be looking or where we should direct you to be looking if you're coming in to the repository to do this research. And in addition, as I said, if there are very specific resources that you want to look at, letting us know that as well. And this comes to requesting resources. Well, how do you know if there are specific resources you want to look at? On the Thomas Balch Library website and on a lot of other repository websites, they will have collection guides and finding aids and their catalogs for resources they have in their collections. And you can go and look at those to see what could possibly be beneficial to your research. And this is the page for where you can search our collection guides for the Thomas Balch archives and manuscripts. You can either search for a specific term, or you can look at our alphabetical index to see if there are any collections that may be helpful or interesting to you. And if you find a collection that you think may have something that would benefit your research, you can say, could you possibly look in this collection? Or do you think this collection may have something that I'm looking for? In addition, we also have our family files index on our website, our family Bible records index on our website. We have a newspaper index. We have what we have available on microfilm. We have unpublished papers listed. We have vertical files listed. You can search our catalog, which is through the Loudoun County Public Library, for published materials and books that we have. So you can see what we have available that could potentially help your research, and ask for specific resources that we can look at for specific family names, topical research, geographical research, anything that you could possibly be researching. And this will help direct that research inquiry. It may also help you narrow down that research question that you're trying to focus on. Now, how much information is too much information? You do not need to tell us every piece of research you have. We are aware that you have done a lot of research. We want to be able to narrow in on the research that you're looking for at that repository. We don't need to know everything. We need to know the specific question that you're coming in to look for at that repository. And so you want to focus in on the specific person or family line that you're researching at the repository. And again, those names, dates, locations, and again, where you've already researched. That's really, really key. Now, you can use all of these tips if you're planning a visit to the repository as well. So a lot of this talks about submitting a reference inquiry through our website if you're not able to come to the repository. But if you're planning a visit to the repository, all of these same tips apply. You can plan your trip in advance. What resources do I want to look at when I get there, so you know ahead of time? View the repository website ahead of time? No. Now, some repositories will require that you request what resources you want to look at ahead of your visit. So make sure that you check their websites for those visit guidelines before you make plans. This is especially important when you're visiting a lot of government repositories. For certain parts of their collections, you will have to request those resources ahead of time. They will have to be pulled for you ahead of time. So it's always important to look at those websites ahead of time. Make sure you know what you need to know before you visit. And it's always helpful to have framed your research questions and your inquiries ahead of time. So when you get there, you can ask staff for assistance and you can be very focused in your question and say, I am looking for this specific person in this specific location during this specific time, or I want to research this specific historical topic. I saw that you had this archival collection or these published materials. Am I able to look at these, or can you direct me to where I can find this information? All of these things can help you, whether you are physically visiting the repository or contacting an organization for assistance, or whether you are asking for a reference inquiry through a repository website. All of this can be done just by going to the repository's websites. Do they have a form? Do they have guidelines? What kind of collection guides and finding aids do they have? And if you go to a repository's website and you can't seem to find what you're looking for, please don't hesitate to contact them, ask them questions. That's what they're there for. We are always happy to help answer any questions you have during your journey of research. And I hope that this pop-up class on research inquiries and research questions has given you some helpful tips. Have a great rest of your day.